This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo. All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Ooh-wee! Something's cooking. Let's get to it. Story number 1. The Sweeney case goes on with a central figure now dead. The Rowan Sweeney case just got more strange news after a central figure in the case was shot dead recently. Yarnell C. Green identified the gunman in the case, and at the moment there seems to be no connection between the Sweeney case and the downtown shooting that killed him. But it seems very ironic that Green was killed in the midst of all this key evidence coming out and the figures coming forward in this case. Now, Green, who is now dead, was in the house at the time of Rowan Sweeney's death, and he identified the shooter in this story, with this case, and now he's dead. So this is why this story is still developing. That's why I made it this week. Big headline. Story number 2. A man shot in Boardman. Boardman Township recorded no deaths in 2021. If you did not know that, they recorded 3 in 2020. That's a low number compared to what we're probably used to seeing locally. Now, this story crept in after Boardman police received a call that a shooting was going on in the local precinct of Boardman, the local arena or area. Now, this resulted in the death of a Boardman man and soon made headlines. The shooting occurred on 1894 Leland Avenue. The story was published by the Vindicator on September 18th. The report does not mention if the death was a homicide, but does mention some key details in how the elderly man was killed, specifying that it could be a homicide. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. Local police carry on even in the midst of all of the craziness. The city recorded its 18th homicide of 2022 this week after a 32-year-old man was shot to death early Sunday near Federal and Hazel Street in downtown Youngstown. The crazy part about this story is the fact that the shooting occurred 1 block from the Youngstown Police Department, according to a local Vindicator article. That means that somebody just didn't even care. Now, the situation is still under investigation. Local police have been standing their ground as more pressure against the police continues to grow. And that's what got the story in, is the fact that it happened right there, right by a police station. The story is still developing. Big headline. Story number 4. What's the motive of a bomb threat at Pola's school, Pola Seminary School, high school? What would motivate a juvenile who's not even 18 or even an adult to prompt the evacuation of 824 high school students at Pola Seminary High School? This remains the question. This is a big question. This is a real deal question. This is after the arrest of a boy in connection in a morning bomb threat at the school. Now, this story was published Wednesday, September 21st, and is still developing. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Why, when, what would cause someone to do such a thing? Big headline. Story number 5. More ARP money news. Big headline. On September 20th, headlines surfaced about City Council approving $344,120 in American Rescue Plan funds recommended by its members. This funds was recommended by its members. Now, it seems clear that after a request to spend ARP funds to hire a property maintenance ambassador was not in good favor, the city is using a more common sense approach to spend the ARP money, the funds, especially in a way that will not cost the city money in the long run. So this is the strategy. Now, the city this is what seems like the strategy. Now, the city plans to use the funds on improvements to the city rather than hiring positions that could cause added expenses in the long run, which may seem smart, but to some people it doesn't. Now, the city improvements are, if you look at the strategy, the city improvements will pay the people, and it's a pay and done situation that puts money into the contractor's pockets, and then the contractor will spend the money, which will improve the local economy if they spend it locally. Now, the city only has so long to spend the funds. That could be why they're using this strategy, and why some requests by city council members to hire a maintenance ambassador are not being met. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6: defense business headed to Youngstown. A specialty coding and engineering company, United Protective Technologies, will be opening a location in downtown Youngstown to focus on its business with the federal defense industry, according to a local report published September 17th. Now, the business incubator was also mentioned in this report as a motivator for the business. Now, the company plans to hire 30 workers in its first 3 years of operation in the city. And they plan to, as it grows, they want 60 more by the 5th year, 50 more employees. And so story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Woo-wee, we're cooking. Story number 7. Ooh, yeah, don't you feel it? Yeah, tops 2 almost at the top. Almost through the show. Big headline. Story number 7. Still recovering from the flood. One story reported on September 19th in the Mediator talks about how Mormon residents invested tens of thousands of dollars preparing their homes for floods and recovery efforts only to see no results. The article is worth a read because it goes on to detail and describes what the residents who have been affected by the flood have been going through in the recovery efforts recently. Now, what is keeping the story alive is the fact that this is not the first time that this has happened, and there is some serious money involved in recovery efforts. Story number 7, big headline, and I would definitely keep an eye on those local insurance policies. Big headline. Story number 8 in the top. Ooh yeah, local headline and developing news story that made this week. Ooh yeah. I get out the car, everybody like, oh my God, it's the Mediator. Oh my goodness. They are joking. That never happens. I go to the supermarket. Nobody even knows me. I get in, get out. Nobody ever gets up this early to watch the show. And if you do, thank you. You will be blessed. Story number 8. The local education assessment begins. After shutdowns, the pandemic sent local schools into panic mode and drastically affected how kids were being trained. But some schools are in rebound mode now, folks. In the midst of so many terrible stories, Youngstown is still under a lot of pressure to improve academically. So that's what this story continues. Now, new assessments show that education improvement scores are ongoing. So there are some improvements, but the district saw a 6% boost in test scores. That's just a 6%. It's not a lot, but has seen a dip in graduation rates. So there's something happening in the education arena locally, even after COVID, or in the midst of COVID, or however you want to word it. Now, the report also mentions that the district received an improved 3-star rating. Although the article published September 16th is an education attention grabber, it does need to be more specific in getting the reader to understand what's taking place in the assessment of the city schools. Now, some explanations in the article shy away from some very, very important talking points that need to be assessed in this story, and that is what is actually happening in the education arena. This story is still developing. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories, so don't you go anywhere. You're in the media with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com.
What does Method8inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
I'm gonna schedule you back in about a week, alright? Put you on 10 milligrams. If you need any refills, you gotta let me know, alright?
I didn't become a doctor to drug people.
Give up on your dream, John. You cannot cure crazy.
He's one of my patients.
No, patience! Well, tell him to stop coming here and robbing me! Are you married? I see your ring. Yeah.
But all I know is I need you and you will need me.
Why don't you have your wedding photos up? Well, I have my reasons for that.
No! You don't know anything about my patients, Kathy. You don't know anything about what these kids, these parents are going through. There's a jungle out here, Kathy. So stay your lane.
I don't have a chemical imbalance. I just want to go home.
Together, we can make magic.
Please don't take me this way!
I'll need therapy after this. Who will check and see if I'm okay?
Hey, Doc. Don't let me down. Because those meds, they're working.
Tuned in this week to the Mediator podcast, Listen and Learn segment with me, your host, Brian West. Kathy Polk-Rivdak will be talking about Protestant Family Services, a nonprofit and food pantry locally, a faith-based agency serving the community since 1944. Check us out this week. Me and Kathy will be discussing things that will be headed into the holidays, challenges for all nonprofits. Check it out, Kathy Polk-Rivdak, this week on the Mediator Listen and Learn segment with me, Brian West. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, once again, I have been tested. Been tested to take a vacation, to stop working. I've been asked this question over and over again. Brian, you could be losing it. You could be off of your A game. You could need to go out into the Palm Springs of America and release the pheromones of the body to engage in some fun activities. Take a day off and be unproductive and enjoy the fruits of thy labor. Folks, I took that message and then I looked around me at reality. And then I embrace the fun of work. Oh yeah, the gospel of the 4-letter word, it keeps me going. Folks, I am having fun. All my life, that's all I've ever done is work. In my disability and my malfunctioning on the global military stage, even in my ripe old age of 40 years old, I'm moving on to work some more. Even as I am at a certain percentage, I still feel like I can get the job done. So I'm lending myself to you as the mediator to come in and save the day on Sunday morning or every day when the show is aired, to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it in this week. Woo! Don't you see? Even as the screen goes a little foggy and my thoughts get clear, I'm working on and moving on through mediation to give you the top 8 story. Woo! Ooh! Work, baby. So let's waste no time. Ooh. Yes. Ooh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Speaking of work, certain stories are bringing attention to safety awareness. Got to work safely. I've been trying to work safely as possible. 8 people hospitalized after a Chicago apartment building explosion. An 89-year-old woman dies after a pit bull attacked her and her 12-year-old grandson at a Colorado home. A mail route in Youngstown, Ohio, suspended after a letter carrier was attacked by a dog. A pro surfer is dead at age 24 while surfing in Costa Rica. Now, all of these headlines prove that the world needs to really consider safety as a topic of discussion. And if I'm talking to you about work, somebody, maybe a safety captain, safety official, was not working. And that's why story number 1 made it. Work! Ooh, you can't go wrong with it. You can't. Even if you drop dead on the workroom floor, you are doing something good with your time. Work. Even when I'm tired, I'm working, baby. Big headlines. Story number 2. The talk is about jobs. Another job about working. Yeah. BBC reports that Gap will cut 500 office jobs in the U.S. and Asia due to a decrease in sales. Bad news about Bed Bath & Beyond is also in the headlines after a top executive reportedly committed suicide. Wow. Constant news about cuts in the retail sector has also been in circulation. Walmart is just one of many well-known companies in major headlines. Folks, we got to find a way, a reason to work ourselves to good, to work ourselves back to something good. Oh. Da-da-da. Story number 2, big headline. Story number 3. Could Putin finally be pushing back on his war plans? There are new headlines surfacing that Putin's plans to flatten Ukraine could be hitting a snag as Ukraine continues to gain momentum. The major news in this headline is what Putin will do in the pushback. Some current news in circulation is hoping that the leader of Russia does not get to the point that he uses nuclear weapons in an attempt to win or to prove a point. This story could gain steam as winter approaches because the war strategy could change. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Mental health is giving the Justice Department a big headache. A community petition for a crosswalk on a busy street. There's a catch to it, but for some reason, in the process to get this petition, for some reason, this child that you keep seeing just keeps jaywalking across the street. The question is this child mentally insane, undisciplined, or just not informed that he or she is doing the wrong thing? And if the child knows that he or she is doing the wrong thing, then is it wrong? You know, and if the child knows that, if the child knows, then why does the child keep doing this? That's the question in all of this. Story number 4. Now, after an Oklahoma Sheriff's Department fatally shoots a man welding a gun after responding to a mental health call, this story about mental health keeps coming up and keeps keeping the justice system in the headlines because obviously there's a mental health problem causing the headaches. Mental health is giving the justice system just that, a headache. And these stories keep circulating and they're making the case even worse. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4, so don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. Mental health, big headline.
We are way out of our league on this one. We are not supposed to be in this deep. We're into some kind of science fiction stuff here. The Field Angels is an investigative unit for youth.
The last thing I heard him talk about was a nucleus or something.
The nucleus is the biggest conspiracy we feel like came out.
Is it real?
7 years ago, you wanted to be a superhero, and you wanted little kids to be your superhero project.
Kid, get down on the ground now. What are you doing? Put your hands up. Hands up. Get down.
I thought I told you your kid was dead.
When was the last time you had a vacation?
I'm fine. Whoever is controlling this nucleus has found a way to move matter with photon particles.
Do you mean like a spark?
You apply it to the light, the photon particles, it attracts.
If anything happens to one of these girls, surely they will shut us down.
We lose it right now, big.
You have 24 hours to get back here with that other field angel, or don't bother, because nobody here will have a job.
I have practiced science my entire adult life, Mr. Daniels. That statement you just made makes you sound like an idiot.
What treated?
Somebody want to tell me what's going on?
You know what I hate most of all? An undisciplined child.
If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor the program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, it now is a time to assess the process of government. The government, what the role of government is. Some people still do not trust government. They think that everything is a conspiracy. But I'm here to tell you, as a representative of this country who has worked and employed for the government, you have to give your all to provide for the greater good of the service. But the concept of free continues to plague the minds of those individuals paying taxes. And I'm here to tell you, as a child born in poverty, that the free food provided by the government was appreciated by one. I'm showing you this. That's why I'm representing this country with all of my splendid greatness, trying to give you more greatness, because I appreciated those taxpayer funds to provide food. Now, the process may seem a little complicated, because as I watched, as me and my cousins were hypered and feeling the energy coming from the government food, and we questioned our parents about if the food was authentic or if it was real food, we often got smacked because our mothers and our parents told us to appreciate everything and be thankful. So the process continues on into the next generation, and we thank the taxpayer for providing what they call free food, but it's not free, folks. And this is what we're learning, is that it's coming from you, all of us, the taxpayer. And that's how the system works. So the next time you see your cousins hanging out on the front lawn doing backflips, getting energized off of the free food provided by the government, learn to appreciate, congratulate, and be good for your country. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country in obedience and being thankful for the free food. Oh, yeah. Whew. Well, folks, let's waste no time. Let's get to the top 4. Let's get to it. Story number 5. The weather woes continue. Puerto Rico is now not only trying to recover financially, but now has been hit by another gut punch. Hurricane Fiona has cut power and water services for most of Puerto Rico. A storm in Japan forces 9 million people to evacuate as a super typhoon hits the country. Now, the damage caused by these catastrophic weather stories are still developing as the fall season sets in. Big headline. Story number 6. Treatment centers on alert after the death of a 7-year-old boy. Wow, how sad is that? Now, 2 workers have been fired after the death of a 7-year-old at a Kentucky youth treatment center. The USA Today report says that the boy died by suffocation. Now, the child died due to the position that he was placed in, which made him unable to breathe. That's pretty scary. This story will probably cause a ripple effect in handling procedures at medical facility, thus showing that this story is still developing. Story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week because the handling of children has been very important. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Whew, almost there. Oh, folks, we all have been poor. And we all have seen the wrath of evil. But freedom is why we keep going. And freedom is leading me on to believe that I'm giving you the top 8 to be informed because you have the freedom to be informed. Story number 7. Ooh, yeah. Many are not happy with the pandemic outcome after the president says it's over. Oh, my goodness. It's over after all that. Could it be over? After the president says the pandemic is over, now the talk is about the aid programs put in place. So let's recap, folks. Let's recap. Over 1 million people dead worldwide. New debates about vaccines and their effectiveness. Emergency taxpayer money all over the place. Shutdowns that literally cripple the small business sector and people. Medical craziness, including masks and many religious organizations shut down. PPE all over the place. Biden wakes up one morning and he says it's over. Once again, another COVID-19 fight could be brewing in an already tapped out arena, folks. Story number 7 almost made it to the top this week. Is it really over? Big headline. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that made this week for you. Keep you informed, folks. If the pandemic is over, how will people get rejuvenated? How will we get to the promised land after we've lost so many people? If the pandemic is over. Story number 8. What worked and didn't work in the COVID-19 fight? The vaccine debate drags on. The COVID-19 stories could be pouring in after the president gave his opinion to the global news that he feels that the pandemic is over. Now, the scary part about this story is the discussions taking place presently. Now, COVID-19 has done some serious damage, and the pit of bodies and people affected in a negative way is big. The question now is what worked and did work in the fight. Now, the number one question making headlines is if the pandemic is over, and if it is, did anything work? The story is still developing, folks. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. Always get something out of the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the media, the man in the middle, navigating through your stories. If you want to show us some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just for you to keep you informed because I care. I have nothing else to do, and I actually love spending my time to do something good. So thank you so much for tuning in this week. Have a good week. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator. Me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.